call the meeting to order. Let the record show that we're here except for one council person, Mr. Williams. Councilman Williams could not attend this meeting. There's no minutes, communications, and so forth. Let's move to item 10, introduction of ordinances. Liz, can you read the first one? Marina Shores Economic Development Target Areas. Can somebody just read it by title holder?
Mm-hmm.
My computer's up there, so I can't pull it up.
I think Sue's pulling it up.
You pulling it up soon?
Oh, she's not connected to the Wi-Fi.
No.
Do you have a paper copy, Chris?
Hold on.
John's gonna pull it up.
Are you here for the council meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Listen.
You're the only one here.
You're the only one here, wherever you want to.
Last place I was at had a DJ. Come on now. All right. I was over at the Woodland Park.
Oh, is that right?
And he set up on the dance floor. They got the DJ, the music going, and
Yeah, they were
Man.
packed,
Oh,
they
you
were
went there,
booked,
huh?
so
Yeah.
we're
What's
here.
going on there?
I was like, man, these meetings are live.
Big old party going on.
I've got it up, Mark. I'll just
Okay, go ahead. Can you read that? please?
Ordinance number 18 an ordinance extending the time period of an economic development target area. Let the record reflect this has been read in its entirety.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anybody want to discuss it?
Is this the one that's up there on
Yeah, Marina
Marina
Shores.
Shores.
Marina Shores? Is this to extend their?
For 1 year.
Their tax abatement. A year and a half, wasn't it? 18 months?
No.
And
just
they
a
haven't
year.
done nothing in the first 18 months
Oh,
to promote Portage in their.
They've had a couple, they've sold a few, I guess.
Six. They sold 6.
So,
Well,
I drove through yesterday, or was it yesterday? I can't remember what day it was. Yesterday? Yeah. I'm not going to support the abatement again. I supported it the first time. I'm not voting for it again. I drove through there. It's a nice development. I just think they have bigger problems than taxes. I think they're too expensive up there. The train noise causes a lot of problems. I'm not sure that the tax abatement is going to solve their problems. So I'm voting against it tonight. I did vote for it the first time, but I just don't know that this is the solution to the problem. We have other developments in the city that are booming. Hidden Waters is insane with the construction, and they're at a lower price point. I know they don't offer as many amenities as Marina Shores, but I think they just have bigger problems than taxes up there.
Well, the reason that I wouldn't have an issue going for another year is that they've attempted the past year and a half, okay? That was an area that had that special tax assessment. And when that place was first built, of course, it was back in, I think, 07 and 08 or 06, whenever really everything was down in this whole USA, the country, went through major issues. I do not have a problem extending it for 1 year. And if we just want to end it at that 1 year, I'm good with that. Let the future council go after that. As far as the homes, when they came last month to the city council, when the LLC group, the owners of that property, asked for an abatement on a spec home or on a model home, I was against that. Wasn't going to do it. I think if somebody wants to come in, they have to be the owner of the property, not the LLC. So I think another year I don't have an issue with. Councilman Clem?
I have again, I've talked with some of the owners over there, and this went through a bankruptcy. And they are charging the new existing homeowners fees to support that lost funds. So to give them an abatement that they're just gonna use for themselves and charge the residents more than what it would have cost if they had developed that place. They're not here to support the homeowner. They're there to support themselves. And at this time, I'm gonna vote that down because they're just passing the buck. They're coming in here to get a free ride, and they're charging living daylights out of the homeowner for their lack of funds. The previous bankruptcy is getting all handed over to the new homeowners. They're paying $1,500 a month additional, or whatever the case may be, different amounts, square footage or whatever, how they're doing it. But the homeowners was paying the penalty. That's why they're not getting new development.
There's an HOA fee, which all the homeowners pay. Probably a HOA fee, just like if you lived in a condo area and so
Homeowners
forth.
Association.
Yeah, but that's outside the bankruptcy, isn't it?
No.
Well, I think the bankruptcy, I don't even know if.
Sure it is.
I don't even know if Brandt was bankrupt. Were they bankrupt? I don't
No, they
know.
bought it on a tax
They
sale.
bought it on tax.
They bought it
They
as
did buy
tax
it
sale.
as
And
They
for a
bought it as
very
tax
good
sale.
price,
That too, exactly.
Yeah,
Very
they were
cheap.
bankrupt.
very cheap.
Yeah.
Mark?
Go ahead.
I didn't vote for it in the first place. I do not feel that we should be giving abatements to developers. We have not done that before, and I think it's setting a precedence, and I think that we didn't honor our other developers who came to this city and built homes and moved families in here. But we're going to give a high-end area an abatement. I absolutely oppose it, and I was the only council person that voted it down the first time.
I say
Okay, does
something?
anybody else? Go ahead, Councilwoman
Okay.
Modesto.
Okay, I am totally against housing abatement, house abatements. I voted for it the first time because it's a unique situation over there at the marina. There's a additional assessment on that property over there because of when it was developed. And I think in order to offset the assessment, an abatement is in line for those houses, for them to be able to sell houses. And I would love to see that whole marina developed, the marina shores developed. It would actually create more revenue for the city of Portage, even if we do give the abatement right now. The second year, we're gonna see a lot more revenue, compared to an empty lot. And that's why I'm for the abatement right now. Again, the only reason I am for an abatement on this housing complex is because of the high assessment that's over there, and I think it's gonna be over there for another 15 years or on that property over there. So that's the reason why I'm for the abatement.
Councilman Cannon.
Yeah, I agree with everything Councilperson Modesto said. I'm for this. I'm not normally for an abatement for housing areas, but in this particular special case. And plus, they've came to us and asked for it, others have not. So I'm for it as well.
Anybody else? Clerk Treasurer, call the roll. The motion was to approve.
Yes, on the motion by Councilperson Aprisco, seconded by Councilperson Modesto to approve the ordinance, Councilperson Modesto,
Yes.
Councilperson Clem,
No,
Councilperson Cannon,
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
No.
Councilperson Lynch,
No.
Councilperson Aprisco.
Yes. Okay, I have a coin. Should I flip it?
Well, no, I'm looking now, Chris looked, the mayor breaks ties.
Yeah, and from what I can see, it's in times when he presides, so without Ken here, I guess I don't know what happens.
We'll call it a 3-3 tie. Take it up next month
Yeah, there we
With
go.
council.
Yeah.
with Councilman Williams. He'll be the deciding vote. Unless.
Unless the mayor can break the tie.
Okay, the second ordinance, B, excessive calls to our Portage Police Department. Councilwoman Lynch, you did a lot of work on this. You spent a lot of time talking to various cities and towns. You've worked well with our chief, Mr. Williams, Troy Williams, police chief. You want to go ahead and read the ordinance?
An ordinance of the city of Portage, Indiana, amending chapter 54 of the municipal code of the city of Portage entitled Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions. Be it and hereby ordained by the common council of the city of Portage, Porter County, Indiana as follows. Let the record show this has been read in its entirety.
Make a motion to approve?
Second. Discussion?
yes, I'd like, can we amend that? Can you read that again, Lynn? Sue, how does it read to where, is it just business or can it, does it read
Okay, down it
Location.
says, the purpose of this section is to provide administrative and civil remedies against businesses that permit, allow, or fail to prevent excessive calls for police services related to anything other than ambulance calls, welfare checks, routine traffic stops, and motor vehicle accidents. These excessive calls compromise public health, safety, and the welfare of the city. Definitions, as herein, the following terms shall have the meanings indicated: business, any individual, sole proprietor, corporation, limited liability company, and any other type of business entity which engages in business or commercial activities, including the sale of goods within the city of Portage. I think that's what you're wanting a response to, the definition of business.
yeah, can we change that to just a location? For if it's any location in Portage, the city repeatedly goes to the same location with the numbers that you have there 10 times
I think there's-
or
I think you're singling out a place, you know, if you do something of that nature.
No, I
Just
think
No, no,
that's,
that's
that's
the whole area.
every
always to
address.
apply to any.
Yeah.
right,
Not just
instead of
businesses.
just business.
You want
Could
it
be
to
a-
apply to
Could be
everybody.
a problem in a drug
Residential.
area.
Yeah,
I mean, this covers everything other than just business. It can cover apartment buildings or mobile home courts where we're having
Well, it
troubles
says
with drugs
business,
and things
any
like that.
individual, sole proprietor, corporation.
But then it says which engages in business
Business
or
or
commercial
commercial.
activity.
So
Yeah.
how do we reword that? What are you suggesting?
Just take that part
Residential, you put residential.
No.
Or just location, any location, it's gotta have an address.
Okay.
And that
Yes.
that can take you to an apartment
Yeah.
building where there's drugs going on or a lot of crime activity within itself or
yeah, but do
around.
we wanna limit how many times we get called to a drug activity house? I don't think we wanna
10
limit that.
times. Well, no, it's to the unit, don't have to be, say, just drugs.
Domestic abuse.
I guess
No,
my,
I don't
my
think I
concern
wanna-
is,
I think I wanna keep it to strictly businesses, I
Business.
don't think I wanna limit, if there's a drug activity going on across the street from me, if I see it happening, just because they don't catch them,
I'll just use
doesn't mean.
drugs for example, what about theft?
Same thing,
Okay, but if you're a tenant, you're a landlord, and you got tenants that's nothing but a full of criminals. We don't want them and do you want them in your community?
well.
This here will
hopefully-
clean that up.
Hopefully,
I guess my
no,
concern
you won't,
is,
no, it won't. The only thing it's gonna do is find the person.
But
I think
what's-
it's-
what's
Mark,
the
do we
reason?
consider like a apartment complex a
It's a separate
business?
one. Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think it might be a separate ordinance is what Pat is looking into. I don't disagree with what he's saying, but
I'm not disagreeing
This
with
is
him
a-
either,
this
but
is
Yeah, I think for
specifically for-
businesses, we should do that, if you wanna do another ordinance somewhere down the road.
I guess
Yeah.
my concern is, in the ordinance, it says, I'm reading it off, Suze, excluding ambulance calls, welfare checks, routine traffic stops, and motor vehicle accidents. I would assume, but I'm not the chief of police, that a welfare check would include domestic violence and that kind of stuff, but I'm not 100% certain
No,
on
welfare check
that.
is not that.
No,
A
I
welfare
think a
check is
welfare
that
check,
someone
somebody
can't
calls-
get ahold
Yeah,
of someone.
yeah, I think
so
That's a welfare
So
check.
I
I think
guess-
if somebody's shopping at a store and they're called in for an
Yeah.
ambulance, you know, or police, it's a welfare check, if somebody may have had a heart ailment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
yeah,
gonna
I think
be-
they're
Chris?
two separate.
Domestic
And-
violence is
absolutely.
totally different.
Wait, Liz, let him speak.
And the other thing to keep in mind with this ordinance is there's two thresholds, a 10 and a 20 call per month to the same location. Troy's not here, but I could bet you any money in the world that there's no location in the city of Port, no non-business location that has 10 calls in a single month.
In a month.
Yeah,
No.
I bet, no.
maybe Pat, you wanna bring to the ordinance committee a separate ordinance, I mean.
Yeah, I'll mention it to the chief and assistant chief.
And
I
see
thought
what
I
their
had.
thoughts are,
And
yeah.
I thought I'd had, and that was kind of one of their suggestions. That's why
Well,
I'm bringing
Troy
it.
literally went through this
Yeah.
with Ken, and they are the ones that
Came up with it.
came
yeah.
up with this. We didn't really
Yeah.
have any more input.
Well, I was just speaking on behalf of
Mhm.
another police officer that's not exactly Troy, but
Well, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying.
I don't want another ordinance when we can combine it all into one.
How about if we look into it? I'm gonna call for a question, pass it, and if we need to amend it next month, we can amend it.
I understand, that's why I'm
Well,
amending now.
we would, the ordinance is just amending a portion of the code. I mean, a new ordinance would just add to the
We
code.
can amend it.
System.
Oh, Add to the
Yeah.
code.
Does anybody else wanna say anything on this
Yeah,
ordinance?
I
Go
put
ahead.
about 20% of the time that Sue put in, she put about 80% of the time on this with the chief, and we were really gung ho, I think, at the time on the amounts of the charges. They're $250 and $500, is that?
Yep.
Have that right?
Up to 20 calls
Right.
is $250.
I'm wondering if that's not excessive. I mean, that seems pretty high to me. What other say it's a mom and pop. Say it's Mr. Mom and Pop here,
I don't
and he
get,
has.
I may get a call once a year.
Okay,
so
I'm just
I mean,
using an example.
I'm a mom and
Say he has to call 12 times. $250 is they may discourage them from calling. And I'm just concerned that
Are you thinking maybe lower?
yeah,
the
lower,
amounts?
100 and 250. $100 and $250 is where I'm not sure that's reasonable, $250 and $500. As I thought it through, I know what my business gets charged in Hobart is nowhere near that. It's $50. So I just think that's pretty excessive. I know we're trying to go after the big corporations, but again, this whole thing includes mom and pops and corporations.
I tend to agree with John on the amounts. I thought looking at it the first time that those were higher because that's not what I had heard that they were going to be. I don't know the rationale behind that. I wasn't involved in the discussion, so
Well, we wanted it to be
I don't know,
pretty
Chris,
stiff.
if
We wanted it to be pretty stiff.
Yeah, I can't speak onto the rationale. All I could just say is I think you struggle on both sides of it. You know, you want to have a fine that's going to affect Walmart.
Right.
You know, a $50 fine means nothing to Walmart. They'll just keep doing what they do.
Yep.
But I get what you're saying about this small business. Again, I wish Troy was here to tell us. I'm guessing we don't see small businesses with 10 or 20 calls in any calendar month.
You know what, I'll be honest with you, I own a bar and grill. There's more activity probably with fights when people drink excessively in a bar and grill where I would have to call the police.
Sure.
And I could probably call Troy in the last probably 5 years, I probably called the Portage PD maybe twice.
That's what I was gonna say.
5 years, not
All
5
right,
years.
I'm just worried about
You
the
know,
assessment.
but here's the
Yeah.
problem, even when you talk about the fee being too high, if a corporation calls, it's usually just not one officer. We take maybe 3 or 4 officers off the streets, off our streets of Portage, and you figure what that costs. It's not cheap.
Yeah,
By
the
the
chief
time
says
you,
two. The chief says 2 officers.
well, you know,
Yeah.
come on, I see them pulling over an elderly citizen with 4 police
I hear
officers.
that, Mark.
And when they get a call from somebody at a major store or something, they're calling and we have a major issue here. Before you know it, it could be something small, but the way that's addressed
Yep.
to the dispatch,
Yeah.
police are, boom, they're
Yeah,
Johnny on the
big deal,
spot.
yeah.
So
And
we're
it should
taking
be.
them off the street.
And it should
and
And then not only this, but certain areas or certain businesses that do have issues that are constantly calling the PD for non-basic issues, okay? I talked to a person today, said, well, you know, Mark, it may be bad to do that because maybe there's a theft thing. Somebody stole something for like $25. Should we really charge them? Well, you know what? When you read the papers and you see what's on TV, that person that stole a $25 item might be carrying a handgun. You know, that person may be on drugs.
Sure.
Okay, he may have or she may have other issues.
Sure.
So it gets down to the point where you have to have something, in my estimation, that's pretty stiff. That's going to be there. And then it also tells these other companies that are calling the police constantly for what I consider non-issues, basically, maybe they should hire staff
Exactly.
internally and have a pecking order on how calls are made
That's
to the
the intent.
dispatch.
That's the
Exactly.
intent.
But it hasn't happened. You know, we seen our port chief Williams, 3 or 4 months ago at the podium at the park, Woodland Park. I felt sorry for the guy. The guy was beside himself. You know, I mean, we're sending officers out there or out to different places constantly. And it has to end. And I agree with the clerk treasurer says. I think a stiffer fine sort of puts him on.
That's right.
And there is a part, there is a section F, the appeal portion. The language is pretty vague on the Board of Works' ability to appeal on stuff. So, I mean, there is an appeal for small businesses if by somehow they have 10 or more calls a month. I honestly I cannot think of a small business that would probably be getting, if there are, they might have some deeper issues to be dealing with,
Yeah.
I would think.
I would hope.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna call for the question.
I think
Oh, go ahead. you
That's
can
why I
speak.
came, to
Yeah,
talk about
no,
this.
go ahead.
To
Feel
give
free.
you a
What's
little bit
what's your name and your
My
home?
name,
Where's your home located?
Lloyd Williams, I live on Portage Avenue,
Okay, yeah, I see.
6517. I, years ago in Elkhart County, worked in loss prevention for a big store. And personally, I would apprehend probably 100 shoplifters a month. Some of them were organized rings. You'd be amazed. They know, they talk. And they would come in, and there were some of those gangs that we knew well enough that we didn't even, they could just walk in, walk out. We didn't touch them, we didn't try to go after them because they would have killed us if we had. You know, that's just the way that was. And I can see where the nuisance calls are a problem, you know, and I could see where Walmart and Meijer, these are the 2 big ones that are probably giving you most of those calls. But the problem is that if you don't call, it's theft, it's a crime. And if they've got a gun in a commission of a crime, that's something really chargeable. a lot of what happens in shoplifting is it's a misdemeanor. But the point of our calling the police was to make sure we got their name in the system. Because I'll tell you, what's gonna happen is if I am a thief, and there's a lot of them out there, I'm not one of them, but they'll know what that threshold is. And if they know the threshold's $250, then what they're gonna do is steal something less than $200 at a time per
Well,
person.
That's
not
no.
how it'll work.
The
That's
$250 is
What we're
when
charging-
Walmart calls on their 11th time. That it's a $250 charge to Walmart
Then we can
Right.
take
for police service.
That's what you
It
do.
doesn't
Amount.
matter the
But
amount
the
value.
crooks are gonna know if you're gonna call the police or not.
Yes.
You know, it's a roll of the dice when they walk in there to steal something. If they know that they're gonna walk in there, I got a 50-50 chance of getting caught. And if I do get caught, if they catch me with something that's under what their fine threshold is, you know, they'll tell their whole family. I'm telling you, they'll come from Lake Station, they'll come from all over
Oh, I see you.
just to
That was
steal.
that was also my
You know,
concern.
an old friend of mine, Bill Carmichael, used to say, he joked about how the seamen would get off here at the port, they'd come down in a van, and they'd steal everything they could fit in their pockets, because they
Yeah.
weren't citizens, you know, so they had really nothing to lose. And
They were very nice guys. They were like pirates.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
They patriot Mark's bar.
Yeah.
And to
That's
note
what
on
they
what you're
used to do.
saying here, that's exactly what I was telling my wife. I said, these thieves are gonna know, don't go the first 2 weeks, we'll attack the second 2 weeks, because
They're
Then
gonna
we'll
be at
be-
their limit.
then we'll be in the $250 range, and they ain't gonna charge us for $50 worth of stuff.
Exactly, and then the name of that thief doesn't get
That's-
out there, and
and
they go to
I
Meyer,
discussed
then
that,
they go
yeah.
somewhere else, and then so when I was reading about store security, that's there
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, but then if
That's the
Walmart,
thing. They need to
I'm not
hire
using the word
security, they don't
Walmart,
have
but-
security, they use city.
Yeah,
But
well,
I'm-
they use the city for the calling them in, like we did. I was undercover loss prevention. I mean, I traveled all over the state and did that. And when we captured somebody and brought them in, our first call was to the police. Our policy was we prosecuted every single shoplifter,
Yeah.
so that they knew that.
See, that's a whole different scenario though. I think is what we're running into is, here looking on this camera, a guy just walked out with whatever it had in his hands. Here, look at our surveillance, go find him. I think that's what we're
Well,
talking
the police
about.
shouldn't be doing that. The
No,
police
I'm
should
not.
just be going there to pick them
I'm
up.
just looking for.
You know, it's already processed. We have the
but-
paperwork here. You have them.
I guess-
Mr. Williams, but what you're saying, you know, I sort of understand, but at the same time, as a business owner, and if I did own a large box store, and if I know somebody was taking something out for like $50 or $60, I would still make a report. You still have legal staff. You would take it to Porter County and see if they filed charges, and if they didn't, you still have the small claims. And when you do a small claims, you could put that as part of your claim, the $250 fine. So there's, correct? You're an attorney,
Yeah.
correct? I heard that. So you can always recoup that.
If I could, Mark, Pat, you just said something that intrigued me on that. I guess we have two different issues here that we're talking
Right.
about. We have the shoplifters that a business has in their custody and calls the police. And the ones where they walked out the door with products, we have them on surveillance, we know what car they got into, we call Portage Police to go find them somewhere and pick them up.
Exactly.
Those are I think we might want to revisit this at some point to get the numbers on how many are we taking from a business and charging them and taking them to jail versus how many are we trying to go out and find 10 days, 14 days later,
Sure.
and just see what those numbers
That's
are.
my point too.
Because I
Regular-
think
yeah.
we may have a higher side of, hey, we know what their license plate is, go find them,
Yeah,
as opposed to, here's the individual, we have them, come arrest them.
We never
But the
called
other
the
thing
police. We haven't
is,
handcuffed
Colin,
them.
is
We
they
stopped
don't
them,
have
so.
any security at Walmart. Some of
Yes.
these places don't have security, so
Yeah.
we can't tell the police, we got their license plate, go find them, because they don't have anybody,
They don't have
we
the
are
in-house
their security,
Well,
we're
you
paying
You
for
should be
their
that. So
we're
security.
maybe this
we're
ordinance, so
very-
maybe
That's
this
why we're
ordinance
right.
will help
Right.
get them that.
But as long as we can clarify that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it just needs to be really clear where those lines are drawn.
sure.
Because the
Exactly.
last thing you want is roving gangs
Oh,
from
yeah, we
Oh,
don't
yeah,
want
no,
that.
yeah.
coming to Portage, because they look around and go, let's do a B&E while we're here, let's
Oh,
do this
yeah.
while we're here, let's
Oh,
jack a car.
No, and it's very valid, thank you for sharing that, I see your point very,
Okay, I'm gonna call for the question.
Okay. Want to call the roll?
Councilperson Modesto's motion to adopt, seconded by Councilperson Prisco. Councilperson Clem,
yes.
Councilperson Cannon,
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli,
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch,
Yes,
Councilperson Prisco,
Yes.
Councilperson Modesto.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Well, is there anybody else? Do you want to speak on any other items?
Maybe to answer your question about the 339.
Thank you for your input,
Oh,
though,
you know, we-
seriously.
Yeah, no,
I-
thank
I think-
Kenny, I know you got here just a few minutes late, we had that meeting earlier, and you had to wrap up at your office, but the ordinance, the first one we had, for
The
that
Marina
tax-
Shores
tax abatement, for the
Yeah.
Marina Shores, ended up being in a tie, 3-3, and there's not a mayor here to break it. Unless
So
I'm,
it fails, right?
I think it fails to lack a majority.
Look it up.
I don't think the mayor's
He has to be
power
present
to break the tie or
It's not.
passed on to anybody else.
because Mark voted, so he can't then
Right, you
vote.
can't
Yeah.
double vote.
what about a coin flip?
I'm in.
How about next month? So it's, can we bring it up the next month?
You can bring it up.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll just
You
put it
bring
But
back.
it starts back at first reading, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. I will have to double check
I
that.
would think so, if it's a good
Yeah,
process.
probably.
Well, for the votes, no, would you please do me a favor, just vote yes for first reading, please,
So we can get it done with.
I'm not, yeah.
please. You know,
Ma-
give it enough
We got a
respect
motion
to
on the
you.
floor to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.